In this video, we are going to explore the MIGO transaction in SAP S4HANA. Therefore, we navigate to MIGO, and here you can see the start screen. So this application is used to handle all material movements. First of all, over here on the left-hand side, you can see different documents. So amongst others, you can see different purchase orders that could be utilized now for the goods receipt. Also, you can see further down, we even have material documents. They are grayed out right now, but this also depends on the status we set over here. I will explain this in detail in a second. Further down, you can also see held data. This we will also explore a bit later on. So far for the left-hand side, as always, we could mark here a subtree and then collapse it like that, or even expand it with this button. Then you can see I could delete single documents from the overview. So for instance, I could mark this purchase order, click on delete, and then I won't see it in the overview anymore. We can also press this button to hide the overview. This would also work via this button. So there's kind of a redundant button to hide the overview. Let's just click on this one. You can see now the overview is not shown anymore. If I click on show overview again, then it will be shown. Okay, let's now focus here on the middle part. This is the most important one. First of all, you can see there is a drop-down menu. So we can either utilize this application to post a goods receipt, or also we can use it to post a return delivery, cancellation, display some documents, as well as release goods receipt which are currently in a blocked stock. So for instance, due to an inspection, we can post subsequent deliveries. We can even post goods issues, or also make transfer postings. We can remove stock from our storage with this transaction as well, place it in the storage, make a subsequent adjustment, or even change movements. Then depending on what we selected over here, we have another drop-down menu. So right now we could post here, for instance, a goods receipt for a purchase order. Also, we could post a goods receipt for a material document and other forms of documents. If I select here, for instance, display, then you can see that the second drop-down changed now because I'm only able to display a material document. Let's turn it back to goods receipt for now and leave it for the purchase order. Then you can see we can search here for a purchase order. So we can hit this indicator and then search for the purchase order, or we could even directly insert it if needed. Let's do so now. So I prepared a purchase order in the background. We will take this one over here. We could even restrict here for item numbers of the purchase order in case this purchase order consists of multiple items. And let's say only one of the items was delivered. For now, we'll leave it as is. Then you can see we could execute. There's another search symbol, but this is the same as if I would search via this button here. And quite important is if we go further to the right, then you can see here the movement type. So right now it's set here to 101. Let's actually inspect this. You can see 101 is goods receipt for purchase order into warehouse or stores. We could even change the movement type, but this really depends on the scenario. So in case, for instance, we want this goods receipt for a purchase order not into our warehouse, but into our goods receipt blocked stock so that it's ready for inspection, then we would post with the movement type 103 and not 101. Let's now actually scroll to the left and hit on execute. You can now see information was filled over here. So let's now focus here on the middle part. First of all, we have here a tab called General, where we can enter the document date. So this is normally the date on which the original document was issued. So once you receive some goods from your supplier, the supplier normally hands in, either electronically or even in a manual way, a document. And you would copy the document issue date into the document date field over here. Then we have the posting date. This is quite important for our financial accounting and controlling because depending on the posting date over here, our financial data will be written to the system. Then you can see further down, there is a drop-down menu where individual slip is being displayed. Let's open this menu. Here we have three different options. Individual slip. So this would mean that one goods receipt or even goods issue slip would be printed per item. So if we have multiple items over here, then we would have the same number of slips that would be printed. We could also select individual slip with inspection text. So this would also mean that per line item over here, one slip would be printed. And also the system would then print an additional line on the paper for a quality inspection text. But this only counts if this quality inspection text was maintained in our material master record. Then we have here collective slip, and this would mean that the system would print one slip for all of the line items. So not per line item, but one collective slip, so to say, for our goods receipt or for our goods issue. However, all of this only works if we mark this indicator over here. So with this indicator, we tell the system to print this goods receipt or goods issue. If we always want to print, we could also default this value over here. So therefore, we would go to our user master parameters via /o su3. And in our parameter section, if we scroll down now, we would enter the parameter ndr with the parameter value capital X. Let's hit on enter. Now you can see here print via output control in inventory management. Let's actually save this parameter and see this in action. If we now navigate into MIGO again, you can already see this parameter is now marked. Let's insert our purchase order again, hit on enter or execute, and that's basically it. One more thing about this parameter here. So as you can see here, when I go into this transaction manually, so meaning that I am calling up MIGO transaction, I am able to change this indicator. However, it could also be that such goods movements are not created here manually, but stem from other applications, maybe outside of the SAP world, that interact with our SAP system, let's say via an RFC connection or an API or something like that, so with an interface. Then in those other systems, it's normally not possible to select this field over here. So meaning that in case in your system, such goods receipts or goods issues are not posted manually, but stem from other applications, then I would actually advise you, for your technical user at least, to set this parameter we set right now in SU3 transaction, so that it's marked here automatically. Okay, let's scroll a bit here to the right. You can see we have here a delivery note field, and here we would normally insert the number of the document we received from our supplier. Then we have the bill of landing. So here we can insert the number identifying the bill of landing for the goods that have been received. The bill of landing itself is a document issued by our supplier and is especially used in the retail area of SAP. This bill of landing is normally shipped with the goods. Then we can include here header text. This is also a free text field. We could insert some information like certain explanations or notes, which will then be applied to the whole document because they are on the header level. So far so good. Let's now scroll to the left again and focus here on our line items. So as you can see, this purchasing order consists only of one line item, which was taken over here by the goods received. And quite importantly, we got some columns over here. So first of all, let me expand here the view. We could set here warranty. So meaning that, let's say the product we received from our supplier has a 2-year warranty. Then we could mark here this indicator to state that this product is subject to warranty. And in case that defects develop in our warranty period, then of course our manufacturer would be obliged to be a part to repair the product or even send a replacement. Then, extremely important, we have here an indicator called OK. Without this indicator, we can't actually post the goods received in this instance. So all of the items we mark here with OK will be transferred to the material document that is generated once we hit here on the post indicator. So let me actually give you a more clear example. Let's open another purchase order over here. Now you can see a purchase order with 2 line items. And we could say, for instance, that this one is okay and this one is not. And you will see in a second what will happen. Then if we scroll here further to the right, we can see the quantity unit. This was taken over also from our purchase order. And please be aware, if I change here the quantity unit, we would still be able to post this goods received. However, this will then affect our so-called GRIR clearing account. Then we have here the unit of measure. There is a column for stock determination where we can actually click here on this house icon. So the stock determination itself enables us to implement various strategies to withdraw materials for goods issues and also for stock transfers. Right now we are in a goods received, so this is redundant. However, if we define the certain customizing and also define in our material master that this material is subject to the stock determination, then once we hit this indicator, the system would determine how and when the material should be withdrawn and also from which storage location and which stock. For now, we will leave it as is. Then you can see we can include here our storage location. So let's say this one over here. Further to the right, we can see the profit center, which is derived from our material master. We can see the movement type again, and also we can see the stock type. So right now, this material would be posted to the unrestricted stock, meaning that there are no usage restrictions for the material for which we post the goods received. However, there's also the so-called quality inspection stock, meaning that the goods would be posted to a quality inspection to inspect them further. The blocked stock, so meaning that this product should not be used. And this would also mean later on, if we utilize this product for, let's say, production or even for goods issue, then the amount posted to the block stock can't be used. Further to the right, we have the plant. This is also copied from our purchase order. We got our vendor. We have a couple of cost objects like sales order and so on. We have the purchase order number. Then there is an indicator called delivery completed. So meaning that with those options over here, we can mark the goods received as being completed. This we can also do in the purchase order itself. So meaning that no further goods receipts are expected for this item. Or we can say do not set. In this case, we expect more items to be delivered. So far, we will leave it as is. Then we have here the quantity amongst others. We can include the quantity of the delivery note. We can include line item texts as well as an unloading point. Let's say something like ramp 10. Then we have here a field for the recipient, the material itself, and even lot container information if necessary. Okay, that's basically it, as you can see. Now let's scroll to the left again and let's double click here on one of the items. Then you can see we are forwarded directly to the material. Let's go back, select one line like that. And if we now hit here on this indicator, close header data, then you can see there is another section appearing. So here, let me scroll down a bit. Here we have the information clustered. So we have the material, then we have the quantity section, we have a section for our movement type. This is very important. Then we have here our purchase order data, we have partner indicator, and also we have the account assignment. So this is kind of a more structured way to analyze your line items. Let's close this. Then you can see we can also mark here a line and then delete the line if necessary. We can copy a line via this button, or we could even here carry out the stock determination for all of the items at once, as well as insert a non-ordered item. And that's basically it. Now, before we will post, just one or two more remarks. Over here in this section, you can also click on this drop-down, click on create, and then, for instance, create an attachment for this goods received or goods issue. Let me actually bring down the screen a bit for you so I can show you one more thing, and then we will focus here on the lower right part of the screen. So now you can see here also the upper part where we have a settings section and where we can actually set lots of default values. So if we don't like to fill the information each and every time again, we could say here, for instance, that we always want to utilize storage location 101C in plant 1010, propose the OK function, so we do not need to select each of the line item and mark it as OK. We can select the movement types that should be displayed, as well as the stock type, and so on and so forth. Then we just need to click on Adapt, and the settings will be saved for our future sessions. Of course, you can always overwrite the values manually over here. Let me now go to the other view again. So here you can now see we have different buttons. We can post this document. This we will do in a second. We can even cancel. We can click on restart, which will clear our values. We can click here on hold. So if we hit this indicator, then we can process these goods received in this case later on, and it will be displayed here on the left-hand side under the held data. So in case we click this indicator, it will appear over here, and then we just need to double click, and then it will be displayed here in the middle part again. We can click on check. This is also something I would always advise you to do. Now you can see the system displays an error message because the ordered quantity was 1 and we inserted a 2. So we could actually change this message here to a warning message if necessary, but for now we'll leave it as is. So I will correct here the quantity to 1 again. Click on check. You can see on a warning message, this is fine for now. So meaning that we can actually post. Please be aware that we only marked this item here for being okay, and the other one we did not mark. So let's now click on post, and you can see the system created a material document. This material document is being displayed here in our material documents section. And also if we go to display material document, you can see it was inserted here already. Hit on go, and now we can display the document again. Let's actually expand the header data, because despite the general tab, we also have here a vendor tab where we now see the vendor information. Then we have a tab called employee where we can see amongst others the purchasing group and who ordered those goods. And quite importantly, we have here the document information section. Here you can see that system now created also FI documents, but this also depends on the purchase order. So whether our stock is valuated or not. Let's hit here this FI documents button. You can see the system created an accounting document, a controlling document, and a material ledger document. Let's inspect the accounting document. Here you can see now the system posted a debit to the inventory, as well as a loss to the price difference account, because this material was valuated at €1. However, we purchased it for €10. So there's a €9 loss. And on the other hand, of course, there is a credit to the GRIR clearing account. So far for our accounting document, let's go back, inspect the controlling document via double click, expand the view, and here we can see that also a cost element for the loss of price variance was debited. So far so good. Let's go back. And then we have a material ledger document where we can see that our material ledger was updated. Let's go back again and close the view. And as you can see, because I only marked one of the goods being okay, only this one was being processed. Okay, this marks the end of the video. I hope you liked it. It took a lot of effort, so I would really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Also make sure to subscribe to my Patreon, where we have a community chat and where I post lots of informative documents about SAP. The link is in the bio of my channel. Thanks a lot and see you next time.